And we are live. And today I'm here with Lily Grow. Welcome, Lily.
Hi, thanks for welcoming me.
Yeah, and really enjoyed kind of chatting and reconnecting here right before the show started. And gosh, lots of cool stuff to talk about today. And I just wanted to point out that as we were chatting, I couldn't help but think about our conference theme this year, which is shifts.
Mm.
Because like we intentionally picked that theme because so many people are dealing with so many shifts. Whether it's the great what are they calling it, the great quitting, or everyone's like quitting their jobs and getting new ones, um and 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 shifting to hybrid or VR, or
Mm.
whatever the metaverse is coming. Like whatever these things are, we're just and I think we've gotten attuned to adapting and shifting, and I think it's going to continue to come. And you were talking about some shifts around, you know, uh, really leaning and embracing this focus around reducing carbon footprint. So I
Yeah.
love that you have such a focus on passion and impact in the work you're doing.
Yeah, something that I really love facilitating is, not just facilitating group workshops for companies that might destroy the environment or at least not care so much for it, but I'm really focused in working for companies that at least try to make a change or try to shift things a bit, even if they're not perfect. And well, I don't think any organization is perfect, but that's really my core my core facilitation.
Yeah. So, we also talked about this trend that I was kind of anticipating and have seen a little bit around, companies becoming more aware of facilitation. They're training their employees, and
Mm.
there's even we're seeing some places that are starting to bring in facilitators to grow those skills within the organization versus, versus it just being like a bolt-on thing for like special occasions.
Mm.
And so yeah, it sounds like that's a shift that you're entertaining at the moment, and would love to hear your thoughts around the differences between being an external facilitator and an internal facilitator.
Well, I'm very eager to maybe see it myself in the coming months and joining, a company that already does that work. But I've really seen this shift in the last years. I've been facilitating for maybe 8 years now, and in the last years, it's been quite amazing to see how many companies in France create internal communities of facilitators. It's not just one facilitator, one internal facilitator that has to do all the facilitation job. I What I see most is, communities of facilitators being created inside companies and people working to spread this culture of facilitation inside companies.
Yeah, that's a good point. Those communities of practice make so much of a difference.
Mm.
If it's just siloed efforts of individuals, it's so much more difficult for them to make change. But if they come together in these communities and
Mm.
support each other, it can make for much more sustainable change.
Yeah, and that brings new questions. How, as an internal facilitator, do you lobby inside your company so that the big bosses see the value of facilitation and not just see it as, oh, we're going to do little nice games and do something, a nice breaker at some point, but really see the value of the whole designing process and of the impact that facilitation can have. And I know companies are really thinking about this, at least people who facilitate in the companies. And I don't know if you've experimented about that, about how you can, engage CEOs of big companies around facilitation topics and really bring this culture of collaboration so that facilitation can be of use and can really be leveraged inside
Mm.
organizations.
Yeah, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. The thing that I've come to find to be the most effective is to help leaders, whether they're department heads or executives of whatever variety, or the CEO. They have to experience the benefits themselves,
Mm.
and you know, I think it's one thing to be facilitated, but it's another thing to actually learn some facilitation techniques
Mm.
and see how much it impacts your relationship with your team. and the progress and impacts that you can make. And so so that's to me the closest thing to a silver bullet is that they actually try these things out and see the benefits and then get passionate about how we need to have more people in the organization applying these to get better leadership.
A dream that I would have is that, I'm assuming that CEOs get together at some points and have some big CEO gatherings, and I really hope and dream that these gatherings are not just conventional conferences where everyone is dressed up and just just the usual business thing, but that these meetings are actually really facilitated so that they can experiment, as you were saying. And I think it really relies also on the power of not peer pressure, but peer encouragement,
Mm.
so that the CEOs can encourage themselves. It's like sustainability. You cannot convince a CEO of implementing a more sustainable business model if you're not a CEO yourself. If you're just someone who's a bit lower in the hierarchy or working on very different topics, you won't have that much impact on them if it's someone who's actually doing the same job as them.
Yeah, they have to connect on the values at some level, right?
Mm.
And to your point, there has to be some respect there around valuing the input and maybe the coaching.
Mm.
So you made a point in the early chat around like your dream is that eventually when there's no need for facilitators.
Yes, I would love overall like this. I think we'd still have storytellers or people who would create experiences or create beautiful events, but for me today we need facilitation because we don't have the time to actually just stop and collaborate and really engage with each other and have honest conversations. And this is, well, at least this is where I've been asked to come in as a facilitator. It's we don't have the time, we don't know how to really talk with each other, we don't know how to talk about the difficult stuff, the uncomfortable stuff. And I really dream that we, in the coming years, and maybe it will take decades, but
Mm.
we can really, shift our collective culture from individualism and just I don't know how to say that in English, but individualism and just consuming everything. So that, yeah, I really wish that we could take the time more to stop, but that goes beyond work. I also did quite a lot of interviews of people around how you can do this in weddings, in
Mm.
birthdays. I was doing an interview this morning about funerals. Everything that we've been doing right now in those fields, well, most of it is just repeating things that have happened throughout history, and we're just doing the same because that's how it's done and that's how we know to do things. And I think, and Priya Parker really talks about that in her beautiful book, it's not just facilitating meetings differently, it's also just putting intention back into many, many gatherings that we have, and we gather all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like, so often we hear from new facilitators that they don't you know they don't have the confidence or they haven't gotten the reps in and practice, and it's like uh it's so often lost on them that we can do this all the time, whether
Hmm.
it's like at home with our family or in a simple meeting with some colleagues. There's so many opportunities to bring these skills out and test them and rehearse them. We don't have to wait for the big meeting with the big executive team.
Sure, you can facilitate your volleyball
Yep.
rehearsal match or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
You can facilitate, I don't know, cooking with your siblings or with your kids. Well, the goal is not to complicate everything and to make it very solemn or very very organized, but it's just to see that we gather all the time and that it's extraordinary moments, and that if we just step back a little and acknowledge that this time is important for us, we can actually facilitate it and have a beautiful time just because of a little shift in perception and in the energy that you put into designing and living that moment.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's really pretty key, is realizing that there's so many opportunities
Mm.
to practice and experiment, and if we can do that, then we'll just get better over time. And it's like also I think you were telling me about a group out of France that was building like an alphabet for facilitators,
Yeah.
and S was for sloth, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was really funny because when you build your skills as a facilitator, you have to do so many things. You have to design, you have to build an Excel sheet, you have to do the slides and everything. And I really like that they taught that they invited us to be more like sloth. Just, well, I mean, put the right frame in it, but also just let the magic happen and let some creative chaos. I was in an event last week where they had an open forum. Is that the correct word in English? Not
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, an open forum. And actually, you don't do that much as a facilitator. You just let the magic happen and you step back. And that was really inspiring for me, because I think that sometimes I might tend to step in a bit too much, just out of the desire to help and to make things move. And actually, it might be counterproductive sometimes.
Yeah, that's an interesting skill to learn, is this when to step in and when to step back, right? Because it can be kind of scary to step back, especially when someone's hired you to come in,
Mm.
and you're I've definitely been in situations where I'm thinking, I need to let them do their thing, but I think they might be expecting me to do something.
And what did you do at that time? Did you tell
Oh
them this?
gosh, I can't even remember. It's been a while. I'm thinking back to that moment. I think that particular moment I was thinking about. Well, gosh, it was a long time ago, and I think nowadays I would say I probably leaned in too much. But it all worked out in the end. I don't think I railroaded it necessarily, but now after years, I know that a little dab will do you.
And isn't maybe it's that the skill of facilitation over the years is just learning to step back.
Yeah, I think that's a skill. And also, even when you're practicing stepping back, part of that is knowing the signals of when to step back in.
Mm.
Because like waiting too late to step back in can be problematic too, right? Um, and so I think it's a nice balance to learn over time, because I think that's what's so fearful about stepping out, is worrying about, like, oh, if I let go too far, I might not be able to rein this back in.
Yeah, and I guess it also depends a lot about the group and the culture inside that group. I know there are some groups that I really have to hold together because they don't have this collaborative culture. It's too far of their comfort zone. So I have to, keep them together so that they feel comfortable and so that they don't step back into the
Hmm.
previous state that they want to get out of. And some groups, they actually don't need to be monitored that much and just need to be set free with someone that's there in case, and just to guide them very punctually. But I guess it's a bit like hiking. Sometimes when you hike with a group, there are some groups that you really have to guide. You have to help them know themselves better so that they don't run out of fuel or water during the hike. And some groups are actually quite more autonomous.
Yeah, it reminds me of just well, when you talk about this kind of flexibility, it reminds me of just how important it is for a facilitator to be adaptable.
Mm.
I feel like, and that's really hard for junior facilitators to. That's a big struggle, right? Because you come in and you learn a method or a thing, and then that gives you confidence because you know this thing.
Yeah.
You've kind of rehearsed it, you've got it down, and you go in and that thing is not working. Right. And but you're there to do that thing. And so it's like, I'm gonna jam this thing and make it work, right? And it's sort of like, it's sort of like you got a screwdriver and the screw is not quite going in and more force, it's just gonna strip it, right? And then we're not, then it's like beyond repair. And I think I don't know if you've ever been in situations like that, but I
Yes,
definitely.
definitely. Yeah, I remember a meeting of a group. It was, I think it was one of the most challenging facilitations I've had. It was a group of HR. It was in the middle of a reorganization of the company, so they were going to announce this at the middle of the meeting. It was in the underground part of a hotel, so with no natural lights, lots of stress, and I did an energizer that really did not work at all. I thought they needed some energy, and actually someone came to me after and said, no, this is not at all what we needed. And what really helps me out of these situations is putting this feedback loop to the group. And I try more and more to say to the group that we're just experimenting together, and that I might do some things that they like, that work with them, and sometimes I might just get it wrong. So it's best for them if they tell me straight away, oh, you're wrong, this doesn't work with us. Okay, it doesn't work, let's move on and let's
Yeah.
do something else. But not having all of the pressure on myself to know what's best for them. They actually know what's best for themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting. It reminds me of whenever I encounter someone that like wants to see the agenda and is
Mm.
so fixed on what's in the agenda. And every now and then you get someone that gets kind of upset that we're deviating from it. And it's like, it always baffles me because if I'm deviating from the agenda, that means I'm like showing up in a really masterful way.
Mm.
And yet it's upsetting to them. It's like really fascinating.
I guess we all have different needs in control and and needing things to just go how they envisioned it. And I was facilitated a couple of weeks ago because I was ending a big project, and
Mm,
I asked someone to facilitate the group that I
nice.
was in. And it was so nice, just to be on the other side of the mirror, because I felt at that time how uncomfortable it is to be facilitated at sometimes, and to be asked to go deep and have uncomfortable conversations. It was, yeah, I really wish that I take a lot of opportunities to do this as a facilitator, not just facilitate, but be facilitated, so that I don't forget that what I'm asking the groups to do is sometimes really difficult.
Yeah, no doubt, especially when they have no prior exposure to that concept
Mm.
or, that way of working. And that can be really challenging. Um, and I think maybe the number one reason is people don't understand why they're being asked to do something. Then
Mm.
they really struggle a ton.
Do you always explain why you're using this or that method, or do you leave them in the experiment and then give the meaning?
I think that's coming back to your point. It depends on the group. It depends on like how analytical and maybe if I got a super pragmatic group and they're just
Mm.
very analytical and like that's just how they look at the world. And I see that they're struggling at all. That's one of my go-to fixes. Is like or someone's resisting an activity, then
Mm.
I because it is nice to have that reveal moment so it can be emergent and then we unpack it. That's really powerful, and I really like that. But if people are struggling with the activity, like I will throw that benefit out of the. I won't because why push them through something that is going to potentially go sideways because they're not getting it.
Mm.
And so helping them understand a little bit more around the why. And maybe I don't tell them, maybe I don't go into great detail around the why, but they need to anchor in on what's the through line, you
Mm.
know?
Give them a bit of security,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. because it could be uncertain. You know, they could be doing something that they've done before, and it was a waste of time, and
Mm.
someone used it. And we just don't know what people's experiences were, because we have limited time with them, and they might have 30 years of being on this planet experiencing things that we have no knowledge of.
Yeah, I've actually have, some people coming into some workshops and see Post-its and just, freeze instantly
Yeah,
at the
not
view of
another
the
one of
Post-its.
these.
No, not again, not the Post-its.
Well, it's like I definitely have talked to folks that have been through those types of things, and because there was no follow through, they associate the being in the room with the Post-its of like, okay, here's another time where we're going to talk about a lot of great stuff, but nothing's
Mm.
going to happen. And so that's the kind of stuff you talked about, all the upfront stuff like the agenda and the spreadsheet and the just pulling together all the logistics. I
Mm.
think understanding some of those cultural and social dynamics up front can be really powerful, but you know as that's not always the case. Often we walk into the room and go, oh, this is what I'm dealing with.
Oh, your team was working well, you said.
Yeah, right. Oh man, that's such a good point to end on. Awesome. Well, Lily, it's been a pleasure, and I hope we get a chance to chat again soon. And good luck on your shifts that you have coming
Thank
up,
you.
and hopefully you can do more great work on carbon footprints and
Mm.
reducing them.
I really look forward to this. Surprisingly, a year of shift for me.
Yeah, no doubt. All
Thanks a lot
righty.
for this conversation. It was really great.
Have a good day.
Take care.